Hey guys, welcome to this channel, Dit Commando. My name's Ryan and I'm a former Royal Marine from the United Kingdom, and today we're going to be reacting to most badass Medal of Honor recipients of all time. We've done a few of these where we've reacted to different Medal of Honor recipients, and they've had quite good interaction in the comments, guys. I have a lot of positivity to say about our Medal of Honor recipients, so I thought I'll do this video because it's going to be honouring quite a few of those Medal of Honor recipients, and probably some that I haven't heard of. So before we get into this, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. It really does help us out. We're over 150,000 subscribers now. If you want to support the channel even further, then you can become a member just by pressing the join button or clicking the link in the description, guys. But if you want to speak to me, feel free to drop a comment in the comment section. Let's get into it.
December 8, 2012, Lagman Province, Afghanistan. Hostage Rescue Force team member and Navy SEAL Edward C. Byers Jr. is part of a mission to free an American hostage, physician Dr. Dilip Joseph, who'd days earlier been captured by the Taliban. Through the night, Byers and his team march for more than 4 hours through an unforgiving wilderness. It's pitch black. All the men are wearing night vision goggles. The temperature drops below zero when the men get close to the compound where it's believed the hostage is being kept. Almost there, 75 feet to the entrance of the compound. But then the men are spotted by insurgents. Petty Officer First Class Nicholas D. Check races forward and shoots a guard. He enters the compound with Byers right behind him. Shots are fired. Check falls. He's mortally wounded. Byers doesn't stop. He kicks down the door where the hostage is, firing at a man and killing him. Another insurgent tries to pick up a rifle. Byers lurches forward, grabbing the man and killing him up close. Bullets are flying. It's chaos. Chaos without light. Byers jumps on Dr. Joseph, shielding him from harm, but at the same time he's got another insurgent by the neck, pinning him to a wall. Another SEAL enters the room, killing the insurgent who's trapped by the iron grip of Byers. Fast forward to 2016. President Obama is placing the Medal of Honor around Byers' neck. He saved a hostage. He took out the enemy. He showed undaunted courage and an intrepid fighting spirit. Mr. Byers was one of the last people to receive the Medal of Honor, and while his
So Mr. Byers, Medal of Honor recipient, it takes a lot of courage to go into a room, a dark room, where you know there's enemy, and they've got the strong position, okay? You think about it logically. If you're in a house, a building, and you know there's someone coming to get you, you're going to take a corner, you're going to take a strong position, you're going to take an angle where you think you can get a shot on that person coming through the door first. You know where he's coming from, you can see it. It's the door, it's the opening, it's the window opening. But as the aggressor, as the friendly force is coming through the door, you don't really necessarily know where the enemy is, okay? There's means and ways to kind of figure out where you think they'd be best suited, but again, you don't know where you're going to be pointing that weapon system. So it takes a lot of courage, a lot of guts to go through a door, especially when you're going to save hostages, guys, honestly. So Medal of Honor, well received.
story is straight out of a Hollywood movie. As you'll see, there are crazier stories out there. Today, you'll meet the badasses, men who knew no fear. Number 10. Henry Johnson. You've all heard the expression beyond the call of duty, and what Mr. Johnson did in the First World War was absolutely beyond what's expected of a soldier. He would go down in history as the first African-American soldier to receive the Medal of Honor. On May 15, 1918, he was serving with Charlie Company, 369th Infantry Regiment, 93rd Infantry Division of the American Expeditionary Forces on the front lines of the Western Front in France. He would become a hero, but perhaps an unsung hero. You see, at the time, there was a lot of racism in the military as well as at home. Some white soldiers gave black soldiers a hard time, and worse, the American Expeditionary Forces circulated a pamphlet in France titled Secret Information Concerning Black American Troops. That information related to African American soldiers allegedly being immoral in society and in...
It just shows, doesn't it, how stupidity can take over. I mean, what does it say in there? African American immoral in society and inferior in battle. I mean, what a stupid slogan, what a stupid phrase by a stupid person. You know, I've served in the Royal Marines, and there was a wide variety of different races serving. There was a few Sikhs going through training at the time when I was in commando training, and I seen a few other different races who'd qualified as a Royal Marines commando. If you pass the test, you pass the test, and skin colour has certainly got nothing to do with it. You've either got the minerals or you haven't. It doesn't matter what skin colour you are. And I'm glad those days is over. I think racism exists in other ways, other silent ways, but yeah, I think those days is well and truly over, in my honest opinion.
Inferior in battle. That pamphlet couldn't have been further from the truth. Johnson's all-black regiment, nicknamed the Harlem Hellfighters, were told by the French army to head to the Argonne Forest in the region of Champagne. On the night of the heroics, Johnson was at the observation post when the regiment came under attack by German soldiers belonging to a raiding party. Johnson didn't have much time to think, and he threw a grenade at the Germans. They still moved in, so Johnson used the butt of his rifle to repel the men. He then threw that down and pulled out his bolo knife, stabbing whomever came close. At times, he had to use his other hand, smacking the invaders with his fist. Then he noticed that one of his fellow soldiers had been injured, and 2 Germans were trying to pull the men away. Johnson ran at the men with the knife and his bare fist, and he wounded 2 Germans and managed to drag the injured American soldier back to safety. During his ordeal, he suffered 21 injuries. It was later said that Johnson faced almost certain death, but with a mighty heart and a fearless attitude, he not only saved the injured man, but also the rest of the men. Had he not been so brave, the Germans would have surely captured the outpost. That's why he got the nickname the Black Death, and that's why he became a hero when he returned home to the US. There, he was expected to talk about how blacks and whites fought together in harmony, but Johnson was a brave man again. Instead, he talked about racism and the rough treatment he and other African Americans had experienced. He fell out of favor then with the military and was even arrested for wearing his uniform while giving those talks. He died in 1929 from tuberculosis. It wasn't until 2003 that he was posthumously awarded the Purple Heart, and then in 2015 he was awarded the Medal of Honor. So how can we top that? Well, hang in, and you'll find out. There are a lot of stories to choose from, given that the award has been bestowed on over 3,500 people. Number 9. Thomas Ward Custer. So what's so special?
I've got a question on that one then, guys. Drop it in the comments. Does racism still exist in the military now? If you served in the military, have you experienced racism? And if you haven't served in the military, do you think the racism still exists? Let me know in the comments, guys.
Special about this guy? The answer is he became the first person ever to receive the award twice. You're probably more familiar with his older brother, George Armstrong Custer, a man who had big ambitions before he was killed fighting Native Americans at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. You've likely heard of Custer's Last Stand, in which the American soldiers were roundly defeated. Thomas died too, as did their other brother, Boston Custer. But let's stick with Thomas. On April 3, 1865, he was fighting the Confederates at the Battle of Namazine Church. During a charge against a Confederate barricade, Custer was under heavy fire, but he carried on, leaping the barricade. He then captured the Confederate flag, and his men followed him. His horse didn't do too well. It was shot and died. That was Medal of Honor number 1. It was only 3 days later, during the Battle of Sailor's Creek, that Custer displayed similar heroics. Alongside his men, he led a charge, and again he jumped a barricade. He saw the Confederate flag bearer and charged at him, only to get shot in the face. Undeterred, he pulled out his weapon and he shot the flag bearer, killing him. After giving the flag to his older brother, he was told to go get treatment, but he refused, so he had to be manhandled to a doctor. Number 8. William D. Hawkins. November 20.
Well, yeah, getting shot in the face, guys, surviving, and still wanting to carry on. That deserves a Medal of Honor, and it deserves a salute from us all, I think.
20th and 21st, 1943, William Hawkins, Scout Sniper Platoon, attached to the 2nd Marine Division, was fighting the Japanese in the Gilbert Islands. And
I love hearing stories of the Marines, guys. I am biased. Obviously, I'm a former commando, Royal Marine, so whenever I hear anything about the Marines, it just gets the hairs standing up on the back of my neck.
The Pacific Ocean. This became known as the Battle of Tarawa. One of those islands is called Batio Island, and it was there that Hawkins with another 40 men were being fired at from machine gun towers. They were sitting ducks, and it seemed that there wasn't much they could do. Hawkins said, "Don't worry," and he snuck off. Moments later, he was climbing the first tower. When he got to the top, he took out the machine gunner close up. Some shrapnel severely injured him, but Hawkins still had a job to do. He managed to do this in 7 towers, although he was shot in the chest at the last tower. Still, because of his brave actions, the rest of the men could advance. Hawkins was told that his wound didn't look good, although he seemed to think it was only a scratch. When he was told to get on a boat and receive more medical attention, he replied, "I'm not doing it, sir. I came here to kill Japs, not go home." He didn't go home, and he decided to take out an 8.
Right, let me know in the comments. Does that sound like a Marine to you? Because it certainly sounds like a Marine to me, 100%.
gunner in a tower. He was shot again, but this time it was a bit more than a scratch. His last words to his fellow soldiers were, "Boys, sure hate to leave you like this." Number 7. Roy Benavidez.
Definitely a Marine.
6 hours in hell.
Roy Benavidez, this guy's an absolute legend. If you haven't heard the story of Roy Benavidez, have a look on my videos. I did a video on him. He's absolutely fantastic, guys. I love this guy.
How does that sound to you? That's what Mr. Benavidez experienced when he was fighting in the Vietnam War. The date was May 2nd, 1968, and a 12-man Special Forces patrol, along with Vietnamese tribesmen, were patrolling the South Vietnamese-Cambodian border when they came up against what you might call a bit of a problem. That was a 1,000-man-plus NVA infantry battalion. Talk about being outnumbered. Benavidez wasn't actually in the 12-man unit at the time, but when he heard about what had happened, he got in a helicopter and told the pilot to drop him close to the mix. When he was dropped off, he started running toward the fight, but was injured on the way in his face and head and leg. When he did get to the men, many of them were laying on the ground injured. Benavidez went to their rescue and managed to get them on a medevac helicopter. But there was another important mission because one of the dead men was carrying classified documents. He couldn't allow those to get in the hands of the NVA, so he went back to get them, only as he did, the helicopter pilot was shot and killed, causing the chopper to crash. He went back to the now overturned helicopter and got the injured men out of there. He took them to a safer place and tried to hide, hoping the airstrike he had called would come soon. It didn't. But another helicopter did arrive. The question was how to get the injured man on that thing while under fire. He did his best, ferrying some men onto the vehicle and killing one NVA in hand-to-hand combat. He killed another 2 with his gun. He suffered severe injuries all while this was going on. He might have got the injured men on the helicopter, but after that he just collapsed in a bloody heap. A medic took one look at him and thought it was game over, so he put Benavidez in a body bag and zipped him up. As the zip got to the end of its journey, Benavidez spat in the guy's face. Listen to this for a bunch of injuries. He had suffered a collapsed lung, had major gunshot wounds in his body, shrapnel in his head, butt, feet, legs, scalp, and shoulder. If that wasn't bad enough, he'd taken a great big bayonet slash to both of his arms.
All right, this kind of guy, all right, it's not commonplace in the military. You have a lot of brave warriors, all right. Trust me, I've worked with some, but in comparison to like the large majority, this type of individual doesn't really exist. They don't come around very often, guys. There's brave because you've been taught to be brave, if that makes sense, and then there's the brave who literally just have it in the bones. They're born that way. They're different, okay? They're different, and look, I'm not that guy. I am not that. That's not me. I'm not that brave, okay? I might have been taught to be brave in the military and stuff, but in my heart, it's just not there. It's not like that. That's a different level, guys, that most people don't have. I don't know what creates a person like that. Maybe it's upbringing, exposure to different things. I don't know, but respect to him nonetheless. We need people like this within our military, all right? Those people would have died without his intervention, and look at all of those injuries that he's received, man. Let me know if you think Roy Benavidez is the best Medal of Honor recipient of all time, because for me, he's up there. He's certainly up there.
He was first awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, and then in 1981, he was awarded the Medal of Honor. Ronald Reagan was president at the time, and when talking about that day in hell, he said, "If the story of his heroism were made a movie script, you would not believe it." Benavidez died in 1998, not because of his wartime injuries, but because of complications of diabetes. Can we beat that story? We think we can. Number 6. Charles Berry. This is arguably the saddest story you'll hear in the show. On March 3, 1945, Berry was part of a machine gun crew serving with the 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division on Iwo Jima in the Volcano Islands. That night, he was on the front line, nervously waiting for a possible sneak attack by the Japanese. And that's exactly what happened. Just after the clock struck midnight, Japanese soldiers came out of the dark and started throwing grenades at Berry and his company, who were all packed into a foxhole. Berry and the other men threw the grenades back, but to the horror of the American soldiers, one of those Japanese grenades landed right by them. Without thinking, Berry jumped on it, and doing so saved his friends' lives. We don't need to tell you that he was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously. Number 5. Wow. Bryant Womack. On March...
People who do that. Look at Kyle Carpenter. His name might even be on this. Kyle Carpenter's story literally brought me to tears, guys. What he did was phenomenal, and it was extremely similar to what this guy did. He jumped on a grenade. So yeah, respect to anyone who does that in a battle time situation. You're literally taking your own life to save others. There's no greater gift for your friends on the battlefield, honestly.
March 12, 1952, Womack was involved in a huge firefight somewhere in Korea. What's different with this story is that he wasn't one of the men shooting. Rather, he was a medic that was attending to the injured men. As the only medic for that battalion, it was important that he didn't get hit. But unfortunately, he did get hit, and hit pretty bad. Nonetheless, he carried on treating many injured men, knowing that it was their only hope. They were severely outnumbered and were getting shot to pieces. Then, the worst thing that could happen happened. Womack was hit by a mortar and it blew his arm right off. He knew what would happen if he didn't take care of himself, but instead of trying to save himself, he carried on attending to the injured soldiers. Before he died of blood loss, he managed to tell other men how to treat the injured. He died while being carried on a stretcher to safety.
That is
Number
unbelievable.
4. Randy Shughart and Gary Gordon. This was a double act and happened in 1993 at the Battle of Mogadishu, Somalia. Both these guys were snipers, and the job that they were given was to take out a Somali warlord named Mohammed Farah Aidid, and anyone that stood between him and them. During the operation to kill Aidid's best lieutenants, 2 Black Hawk helicopters were shot down. You might have heard the words Black Hawk down at some point in your life. As U.S. forces were trying to deal with the first helicopter, the other, Super 64, came crashing down. Both Shughart and Gordon volunteered to head to the crash site to search for survivors, despite being outnumbered 1,000 to 1 by local militias. When they got there, all the men...
Right, we don't even need to understand. Yeah, 1,000 to 1, guys. Yeah. This is going to be a crazy story.
aboard the helicopter were dead except for the pilot, Michael Durant, who was wounded but would survive. Then the worst thing happened. A mob of militants attacked the 3 men. They fought back as well as they could, but the mob came at them in swarms. Both Shughart and Gordon were killed and Durant was taken hostage. Durant was eventually released and he went back home to the US where his wife and kids were waiting for him. Concerning what happened that day, he said this: "Without a doubt, I owe my life to those 2 men and their bravery. Those guys came in when they had to know it was a losing battle. There was nobody else left to back them up. If they had not come in, I wouldn't have survived." Number 3, Ryan.
So they basically went in knowing it was a suicide mission. That takes you into the mentality of a sniper. All right, these snipers are very different as well to the rest of the military. All right, the way they're trained to hone in on the enemy, to watch them for days. You know, they gain a killer instinct, a professional killer instinct, one that is rather fitting for the military. Okay, and it works, and we've seen that there with the courage that they've got, the determination, and you know, the appetite for battle as well. They're willing to put the life on the line to save comrades in battle, which has the utmost respect from me, guys.
Pitts. July 13th, 2008, Kunar Province, Afghanistan, and Ryan Pitts is serving as a forward observer in the 2nd Platoon, Chosen Company, 2nd Battalion Airborne, 503rd Infantry Regiment, 173rd Airborne Brigade. What's unique about this story is that Pitts was all alone at the start. He was positioned at a remote post protecting the Nott vehicle patrol base. Earlier in the morning, all hell broke loose when the base came under fire from over 200 anti-Afghan forces. They hit the base with small arms, machine guns, and rocket-propelled grenades. Pitts tried his best to protect his fellow soldiers, but in doing that, he was hit, suffering severe injuries to his arms and legs. Still, he got up and opened fire, and as the enemy got closer, Pitts understood that it was do or die. One at a time, he pulled a pin on a grenade, then waited, and threw it so it exploded at the right time. In doing this, he managed to hold them back, but he was so injured that he collapsed. On the ground, bleeding out, he still managed to fire at the attackers. 2 men came to his aid and Pitts gave up his gun. Near death, he then crawled to a radio and asked for backup. He knew quite well that by making that call, he would be heard and killed. Because of what he did, he saved the base and saved the lives of many men. He's alive and well today, working at the tech company Oracle. Number 2, Vernon Baker. Baker did something extremely brave, something you might have seen in a Hollywood movie. On April 5, 1945, with the Second World War almost over, Baker was a 2nd lieutenant in the army fighting in the mountains of Italy. There, his unit came under heavy machine gun fire and, well, there wasn't much they could do about it. They were up against a formidable enemy. Baker, knowing his men couldn't move, crawled onto one of the machine gun nests and killed the men in it. He then crawled over to an observation post and killed the guys there, and he was by no means done. With some of his men, he attacked a structure where the enemy was shooting, and then those guys were dead. But there was still a big problem. Some enemy machine gunners were still firing, and some of Baker's guys were severely wounded and needed to get the hell out of there. What to do? He thought for a while, and he knew the answer. After telling the other men about his plan, he took a gun and purposely exposed himself to the enemy. If they were firing at him, the other guys would be able to escape. He actually survived and helped save a lot of people. Not only that, the next day he volunteered to lead a battalion through a minefield. He didn't get the Medal of Honor until 1997 when he was 77 years old.
What?
It was agreed then that some African Americans should have gotten the medal back in the day. Number 1. Richard Nott Antrim. This one is different from all the others. During the Second World War, Lieutenant Antrim served on the ship the USS Pope. He helped sink a number of Japanese ships, and for that, his captain said he should be commended for his meritorious performance of several duties. But that's not why he received the Medal of Honor. During the Battle of the Java Sea in 1942, the successful Pope met its end. It was sunk and Antrim was injured. Nonetheless, he was a lodestone when it came to getting the men on rafts and getting them supplies. This didn't mean he was out of trouble. The Japanese Navy picked him and other men up and took them as prisoners of war. As you might have heard, the Japanese could be...
Yeah, you don't want to become a prisoner of war with the Japs guys in World War II. In that time, it was horrendous, okay? Horrendous. The treatment that our wonderful soldiers succumbed to was horrendous. They were subject to some of the most horrific war crimes going. We don't have to go into too much detail for you to understand and use your imagination what kind of methods they used.
Brutal at times to their POWs, and that happened under the watch of Antrim. One day, he witnessed an American POW being accused of not bowing to a guard and being told he was going to get 50 lashes. On the 15th lash, the man was cut to pieces and was unconscious. He would not survive many more lashes. Antrim stood up and said, "I'll take the rest." The Japanese were in shock, and Antrim knew that 35 lashes might well end his life. Still, he added, "I'll take the lashes." The Japanese soldiers kind of respected him for this, and he didn't get lashed. That's not where his story ends though, because having gained this new respect, the Japanese listened to Antrim when he offered them advice about building some trenches. They allowed him to build the trenches the way he wanted, not knowing that when he and his men were done, from the air you could see the letters US. He did that so Allied planes wouldn't bomb the site, and by doing so, he might have saved hundreds of lives. If the Japanese had caught him, he would have lost his head for sure. Now, you need to watch this, the Battle of...
Wow, that last one, I'll take the lashes. Knowing that he's almost certain to get killed in the process. I don't know what kind of man you have to be, but look, this is a reaction channel. I can speak from my heart. I can react to it according to what literally comes into my brain, and I can tell you now that that's not me. I don't know if I've got that in me. I don't know I don't know, how do you even know if you've got something like that in you? The ability to be able to go, "I'll take those lashes, I don't know, guys. That's a different level of courageousness, you know. I don't know. Who do you think is the best Medal of Honor recipient on there? In what order? For me, I'm biased. I still think the Roy Benavidez story is one of the greatest military Medal of Honor stories I've ever heard. But if you've heard of a better one, or if you think anyone's better on there, let me know in the chat which one is your favourite, guys. But thanks for watching. Like, share and subscribe. I'll see you in the comments, troops. Peace.